Here's a hard and fast rule. Kids love horror. I think it's because when you're a kid you can get scared by ghosts and spooky things, and when you grow up you become numb to everything around you, and the only thing that can make you afraid is the realization that life is meaningless and there's a good chance you'll fade into obscurity. Hello again, Most Amazing Top 10 family. I'm your host Chad Arena, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Today we're going to be counting down the romps that make children run with our list of top 10 scary kids games with dark origins. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. And stick around for the whole list because I'm going to be answering some questions from my Instagram inbox. If you want me to answer your question, you can hit me up through the gram. Without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have the Ouija board. I don't need to get into too much detail why this thing is creepy. When you use them, you may or may not be connecting to people who are dead, and even if you're not talking to the dead, it seems like a lot of strange, creepy things have been attached to them. But did you know that the Ouija board started out as a parlor trick and then was taken as something that kids would play with as a fun little game, and then witches got a hold of this bad boy, and next thing you know it was all about evil and all that kind of junk. So maybe at the start there wasn't anything evil going on with the Ouija board, it was just a fun game. But now if you bring one of these things around me, I'll light it on fire and then take a 3-hour holy water soak before I venture out into the world, because I don't need that bad mojo messing up my life. You know what I'm saying? Coming in at number 9, we have Ring Around the Rosies. Not a game you'll see a lot of kids playing anymore, but it used to be quite the hit. A bunch of kids holding hands and dancing around in a circle, singing a nursery rhyme that is so creepy it sounds like it was written by Freddy Krueger himself. Well, it turns out that this game has a connection to the Black Plague. Just when you thought things were gonna be fun and innocent, we bring in the worst plague that has ever reaped havoc on the earth. The line "pocket full of posies" is in reference to the fact that people used to keep flowers in their pocket because they thought it would stop them from catching the plague. Someone needs to go back in time and tell them that if you don't want to catch the Black Plague, you probably shouldn't be dancing around in circles holding hands. You gotta keep 6 feet apart from everyone and order your food off a delivery app. That's the only way you can beat it. Coming in at number 8, we have Bloody Mary, a classic game that kids love to play to try and give themselves a scare. This is a classic sleepover move. You do rock, paper, scissors or draw straws, and the loser has to go in the bathroom and do the Bloody Mary game and try not to die. As far as I know, Bloody Mary has never reached out through the mirror and tried to murder anyone, but that doesn't make it any less scary. But Bloody Mary is actually reference to Queen Mary I. She was the Queen of England who was notoriously bloodthirsty. She sent out soldiers to hunt down Protestants like animals and caused thousands of deaths. Maybe it's her ghost who's supposed to come through the mirror when you summon her. Coming in at number 7, we have Final Fantasy, one of the most famous games of all time, and kids absolutely love it. The game itself isn't that spooky. I mean, there are some moments throughout the many games that have made kids scared or feeling a little sad. I won't get into anything of too much detail, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just say in Final Fantasy VI a lot of innocent creatures get murdered. But it's more of the dark origin of how this game was able to work its way onto this list. Final Fantasy is called Final Fantasy because it was literally the Final Fantasy. Okay, that was a sentence where I said the same word a bunch of times and gave you guys almost no information. But Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of the game, knew that if FF didn't fly, it was going to be the company's last shot at making a game, and they were literally going to go bankrupt after that. So the jobs and livelihood of hundreds of people were sitting on the shoulders of this new IP, and it turned out to be one of the biggest game franchises of all time. Coming in at number 6, we have Mortal Kombat! If you were to walk in to pick up a copy of Mortal Kombat today, you would have to be above a certain age because the game is rated M for mature. Unless the dude working at GameStop is super cool and wouldn't care about selling you the copy of the game. But this game used to be for kids. Well, not aimed at kids, but kids could have easily bought it if they had the money. When the original Mortal Kombat came out, video games were seen as something mostly children enjoyed, and there were no age restrictions on video games. There was also the fear that violence in video games was going to make a generation of homicidal maniacs because the people in power love to blame crime on anything other than the fact that economics are set up to keep poor people poor. But because of this outcry against video games, Sega and Nintendo were actually taken to court over games like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. It looked as if video games might be gone forever, but then everything was fixed when the ESRB was created, which is a video games rating board. Once you could put M for mature on the box, then you were A-okay to sell video games with people's spines getting ripped out. Coming at number 5, we have Tag and Cooties. I don't think there's there's any kid who grew up without running around on the playground, chasing someone down so they could tag them, or pointing at a kid and telling them that they had cooties, forever giving them self-esteem issues. Well, now kids won't know what that's like because touching another person has become taboo, and having any sort of cooties means you have to quarantine for 14 days. And this actually rolls in perfectly to the point. Tagging cooties were reference to passing around a parasitic bug. Yeah, that's nasty. People suspected that the word cooties actually comes from the Malaysian word kutu, which is a type of bug that feeds off people in the same way lice do. Coming in at number 4, we have Lemmings. This was a game that was extremely popular back in the day, but since then died off quite a bit. But for those of you who don't know a ton about the history of this game, this is where you lead a single file parade of little Disney looking rodents through an obstacle course, and hopefully they all make it to the end. And that is a big hopefully. Playing through this kid's game, you'll quickly learn that these little dudes will die, and as a young player you're going to have to be face to face with the deaths of your little pals quite often. Not to mention there's one level in the game that decides to embrace the horrific fate of these blind followers by throwing them into an H.P. Lovecraft horror show. They have you traverse a world that looks like an elder god graveyard with blood dripping off the ceiling. Coming in at number 3, we have Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board. This is a pretty wild game that makes people with low IQ believe that magic is real and they have summoned some sort of inner power that they didn't know they could unlock. Multiple people lift one person while only using their fingertips. Let me show you.
11.
All of this is a simple case of weight displacement. Each person is only taking a fraction of the person's body weight, and therefore you're working as a group and can lift a person's body with ease. There's nothing magical involved. I mean, Shaolin monks can do push-ups on their fingertips, so 5 people lifting one person isn't actually that impressive. But the dark history of this game is actually pretty twisted. The game originated in the 1700s, and it was something that people would do as some sort of prayer to ward off disease. They thought this little ceremony would help you not get any sort of plague-related illnesses, when really all you need to do is wash your hands. Coming in at number 2, we have Tetris, one of the first blowout successes in the gaming industry, and definitely the first smash hit to be brought to the Western world via the Soviet Union. Tetris was a game that kids and people of all ages have fallen in love with, but there's something at the game's core that is truly depressing. The game's creator Alexei Pajitnov did not own the rights to the game. Because of the ownership laws in the Soviet Union at the time, the company that Alexei worked for took ownership over the game, and through all the money making and handshakes, Alexei didn't see a single dime. Even though he was never hired to work on a video game, it was just something he made in his spare time. After everything was said and done, after Tetris was on every console and handheld and coin operated machine, Alexei missed out on $40 million back in the 1980s. He should have been one of the richest men in gaming. On the bright side, he was able to score a job making video games in the West and was able to avoid the fall of the Soviet Union. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have hoop rolling, something that has lost its popularity with kids ever since the television was invented, but this used to be all the rage with youngsters. You have a stick and then you get a hoop, and the goal is to keep the hoop moving by hitting it with the stick. If you get really good at it, you can challenge your friends to a race and see who can get their hoop moving the fastest. But you might not know this game started as something that Roman soldiers would do to train themselves with a spear. They were trying to get the spear through the hoop and try to keep the hoop moving. This game seems like a fun challenge for rambunctious little kids, but it was actually how some bloodthirsty soldiers would train to kill a man. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Now I'm going to answer some questions. Kuisi, a girl, wrote in and asked, what is your favorite type of scary mystery? I really love them all. Mysteries and thrillers are some of my favorite type of entertainment. I really like movies like Gone Girl, or learning real life mysteries like how people track down a killer. Avakin Stardust wrote in, do you have a crush on someone? And the answer is no, because my heart is a big black lump of coal. And Dino King 0504 wrote in and asked, why are you so funny? I don't know, dude. I'm just living my best life and I'm loving it. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Chade Arena, and keep munching up this content like Joey Chestnut. We bring in the worst plague that has ever reaped havoc? Yeah. You do rock, paper, scissors, or draw straws, and the losers brace the horrific fate that these blind followers are oh, okay. There, right there. Perfect. The game's creator, Alexei Pajitnov. The game's creator, Alexei Pajitnov.